Today, Daphne is going to talk about how Preferred Success has successfully transformed some of the IBP-related activities within Corning. So it's my great pleasure. Daphne, the stage is all yours.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. Let's get started. So we'll just go over, this is pretty short compared to Purdue. I'm just going to go with IVP is a lot smaller than success factors, less modules. Yeah. I think my job's a little easier. So I am Daphne Froelich. I've been with Corning since 1999. I've been doing SAP IVP for about 5 years. We implemented our first planning area for our CET division, Environmental Technologies division. They implemented first, and then somebody came along and said, oh, you know what? The project team's going to leave, and we need operations support. Who should that be? And I was tapped because I tend to be the person who's like, oh, what's going on over there? Is that new? Cool. How does it work? So I was looking over the wall, and a friend of mine said, come on in. You're the new support person for IBP. And yeah, I do nothing. I can spell SAP. That's about it. So yeah, we'll do the overview, the adoption plan, our journey. It has been a journey. It's going to be a journey. That's life, is a journey. Enjoy it while you're traveling because the destination keeps moving out there. So, and then Q&A. So Corning, founded in 1851. They actually were a small glass company in New York City, and I don't know the whole story, and it's a long one. They loaded all of their factory and machinery onto a barge, and they loaded it up to the middle of New York State, unpacked, and the city of Corning and the company Corning became almost synonymous. So it's been a great place to work. I've been there a long time. The tower and the gaffer. So we have Boilermakers. We have gaffers who also work in teams to do their job. The glass blower. We call him Little Joe. He's a fixture. We recently implemented an AI, and we call him Little Joe, and we can ask him questions, and he'll answer questions about the company, remind us what our TLAs are, 3-letter acronyms, and he'll tell you, well, it depends on which business you're talking about, what that means. So, so yeah, 61,000 employees. It's big. We do everything. Little Joe Tower was to drop tubing that would take a glob of glass to the top of the tower and let it go. And gravity would stretch it into a glass tube. Then they would snip it off and make things with it. We do optical fiber. Environmental Technologies, our first IVP division, does the catalytic converter filters that are in your cars. Life Sciences, CLS, the little glass vials that the injections of vaccines are coming in. So everything, wall panels, glass wall panels that you see in elevators and rooms. So it's a great place to be if you're a curious person and you're always looking over the cue ball going, what's happening over there? That looks cool. Let me try that. So great company, a million things going on at once. I met Corningites at the lunch table that I haven't seen in a long time or haven't worked directly with. Mary Ann mentioned being in photonics, and I started in photonics. These are the modules for IVP. Everywhere there's a green star, we have implemented a module or a piece of the module. The yellow stars are planned. They're coming. They're on a roadmap. The red star, DDMRP, we did a pilot for last summer for our optical communications division. The pilot went well. We proved that the product does what we said it does. And optical communications decided our data is not clean. So the data integrations, which is what Marianne and her team are working on, the global template with our data. So they've gone back to the drawing board, stepped back to get their data in the right place, get their HANA, S4 HANA going the direction they needed to go. And and then they'll come back so that they can implement DDMRP as it's intended to be used, not as we might want to customize it for use. The best part about IBP, the public cloud, the plain vanilla, configure it and use it as is so we can update it quarterly. That is one of the best things I've worked with at Corning in a long time. Corning likes custom applications. We're inventors, we're innovators. We want to build our own. We want to use it this way. Not always the best when you're just trying to get product out the door and keep it on the shelf and be able to get it to the customers. So those are the things I like about IBP. I came from the PeopleSoft world. We had customized our ERPs so much that they were no longer updatable. Every time we wanted to update, we had to go back to vanilla and then apply all of these customizations. So hopefully we stick with the public cloud. I'm liking this. Drive our business outcomes. So Preferred Success came in 2 years after I started trying to support IBP as a team of 150 users. And when I walked in the door, first it was, I don't know how this works. I don't know what it does. Second, it was, I had angry users going, this keeps crashing. Every 15 minutes it crashes. I hate it. It's terrible. I can't plan like this. And I had angry users and managers of angry users and high up people coming to me going, so what are they doing about it? SAP's got to fix this. And it took the first 3 months of my job to identify the problems, which were really super basic, that IT people assume the end users know. I assume that you know when you close your laptop and put it under your arm and you hike down the room to the next conference room that you realize you've broken your Wi-Fi connection. Your laptop went to sleep. It may have powered off even. If you break your connection with the cloud and you didn't save your most recent updates to your IBP plan, you didn't save them. When you reopen and you reconnect to Wi-Fi, you get the same data that was in the database before. And these users were like, but Excel always saves my work even if I don't push save. Yeah, but it's a little different. So training on basic cloud knowledge. These are very, very intelligent people, super Excel users. And yet something little as that was just tripping them up on a daily basis. And so that was the first class I had, was how to work with a cloud application, how to keep in mind, is your Wi-Fi there? Is it steady? And then that uncovered all kinds of other things. Corning as a company, we maintain a pretty good infrastructure. We had pretty good Wi-Fi. It wasn't terrible. It worked fine for PeopleSoft. Because if you got a little network blip and then you reconnected to PeopleSoft, it was transactional. You know, there was stuff saved in your machine and then it would load it up. Yeah, so that was learning, right? And then was the struggle with, I'm the guy in the middle who knows nothing about networks or firewalls or security. I know they exist. I assume they're there. I assume they're going to work. But now I'm in between, you know, an SAP network person and a cybersecurity person and a different firewall person and another couple of network guys. And they're all going, and I'm like, okay, really, guys, aren't there some logs we can look at? So that was a little painful. Corning today has a whole new infrastructure, basically because our cloud applications couldn't hold a connection. They worked fine for on-premise. Going to the cloud was totally new. So this was all new learning. I had users who'd say, I can work for 17 minutes and then I'm going to get cut off. And I have transactions that take longer than 17 minutes, please help. And we had to go through a whole debug with that. There was one little switch somewhere in the firewall that saw those thousands and thousands of bits of data flowing in and out of the firewall as a threat, a cyber threat, and said, oh, stop that. They're doing their job, but we had to educate all of our infrastructure people on how to, you know, this one's not really a threat. So all kinds of work in areas I had no knowledge. So that was exciting times. Preferred Success comes along, and all of a sudden I have this team here going, well, would you like to implement this? Have you implemented that? You're planning area hasn't changed in 2.5 years. Why? I don't know, should it? We get the quarterly upgrades. So yeah, again, this is Corning mentality of we get an IT system, we set it up, we customize it, we make it do what we want. And then we just do our jobs. And if there's not somebody driving for the innovation, somebody saying, hey, you got new features in May, you're getting new features in August. If there's not somebody pushing those, then the people who are using it are looking down at their computer and they're doing what they do day after day after day. And if the only support person is engaged in finding firewall issues and network issues and ironing all those out, you're not getting anybody else looking at the roadmap. So having preferred success in took that whole load off my shoulders of, we'll look ahead for you. We'll look at what you're doing. We'll meet with you. We'll talk about it. We'll advertise to your power user teams. We will talk with your businesses about what their needs are and what kind of issues they're having. So this has been great. The accelerating implementations, all of that, all of the developer access, all of the, when I put in a support ticket and I feel like it's not getting seen, and I can say, can you push that ticket a little bit? Because here's our impact. So really been a great experience. So yeah. Empowerment through the life cycle, the planning life cycle, right? So you implement it, you adopt, you operate, you optimize. And what was happening with us for those first few years was we implemented, we went live, we got stagnant. We sort of sat there. We tried to keep it running. So without preferred success coming in, the adoption, the improving our operations, the optimizations just wouldn't be there. So, yeah. So this slide was put together by my colleague. Krishna wasn't able to be here today. He is the service line manager, so he has a different viewpoint than I do. I get to see what's broken. He gets to see what the product did for Corning. So all kinds of great things that come back from the businesses saying, hey, we, our make to stock forecast has come down. This is great. We're saving some money. We're doing this. And I'm like, did we? Awesome. Because all I know is there was some stuff that messed, but I got it fixed. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough being in the operations because you only hear the complaints. You don't get to hear the good news very often. So it's nice to, I like to go places with Krishna and hear him tell what good things are coming out of the tool. Yeah. So we've done well. We're doing well. Our environmental technologies they're on their third planning area revision now. They implemented in 2016. Last year, 2021, we went to the new Unipod and leveraged that. So that was really great. And then this year they added supply planning module to their mix. So that's just another big step in improving how we plan our products, our manufacturing. So CET is doing really well. CLS has had one planning area since they started in 2017, but they have a major project plan to start next year. And planning for that, I think it's on the next slide. Yes. So value gain. So you can see the launch check for enablement. That was with Chrysalis, with our Unipod, with our Chrysalis project, the caterpillar and the butterfly, right? So we're hoping we're a butterfly now. Before we went live, there was a launch check. There were questions asked, and SAP preferred success made sure we came in. We had people look it over and go, that's good, that's good, that's good. This is a problem. You want to rearrange that or do this, or here's a solution. So that made go live doable. So yeah, and the Learning Hub has been really awesome. So again, I'm juggling the balls. I've got things broken, or I've got users complaining, or I've got work to do, and I need to learn, right? So when am I going to learn? Probably nights and weekends, because there's my day job, and then there's how do I get better at my day job? So having the Learning Hub lets me go do that when I have a free minute and and do a lot of the on-demand things. And the webcasts and the webinars from Preferred Success are always on my calendar. And if I can't make it, it's not something I have to stress over because I'm going to get the link to the recording so I can look at it later. And if I do have questions that I couldn't ask during the presentation, I can take them to Don and he'll find an answer for me. So, yeah. And the incident handling has been awesome. Yeah. Outcomes and goals. So yeah, here again, environmental technologies used. There's the supply planning and that. We had plenty of pros helping us get through that, and life sciences with the check for new features. So with this new project spinning up next year, life sciences is really geared toward, let's make sure we're looking at all of the what's new every quarter and see if there's something that will help us that we need to include in our scope of our project. I am afraid they're running the risk of getting such a large project that we can't start. So we keep trying to rein them back into what's phase 1, what's phase 2, put that on phase 17. So, so yeah, that's the classic, don't bite off more than you can chew. Questions? Do you have questions in the room?
Yeah, I'm just trying to learn. So when you talk about on a quarterly basis, you look at new projects or new ideas to come forward to maybe be implemented. Who works with your preferred partners to do that? Is it a group, a combined group? Is it your leaders, or how do you do that?
Great question. So Krishna, our supply chain, our service line leader for IBP, is like our key contact. He's kind of at the top level driving where we're going next. So he's working across all of our businesses to see who has needs, what their needs are, who might be next. He also works directly with each of the businesses. There are IT resources embedded within each business. And this is classic. I've seen it in operations for the last 10, 15 years. The business has the purse. The business is paying for the project, so they're driving the project. They will bring in vendors, outside vendors to develop. They'll choose. This year, for the first time, I've seen them actually have a full conversation around, let's get somebody who can do the development and the operation. We are growing an internal DevOps team this year. Finally, I've got 3 new skilled, experienced resources with both data integration and IBP skills that has really leveled us up. And now we're working to earn the business's trust, right? Well, we've always worked with these guys, but you guys are corporate IT and you're our enemy. No, not really that enemy. But there's the classic down in the business, on the production floor, where the rubber hits the road, it's a different type of IT. And you have to work fast. You have to be agile. You have to keep things flowing. And all of the audits, the Sarbanes-Oxleys, and all of the change management rules and bureaucracy that come with corporate IT, right? We're the bad guys coming in and going, well, you can't just pop that in today. We haven't vetted it. Did you have UAT? I haven't seen your data. Who's approving this? And I'm always feeling like the monster slowing down their project. But it is for their own good. There are times when I cave and I'm like, yeah, that's low, let's put it in. And then the next day we're all sitting around the table going, we didn't foresee that happen. So, there's the balance. We work through it. But the businesses usually are driving. They usually have a business team. Our project team for both implementations has evolved into our power users and SMEs. They are the people who were the best planners before IBP. So Corning does really try to get the right people involved, the right group. I've struggled a little. It's difficult, especially when you're a team of 1. I can't be on every project that's going on and keep things up and running. So we have more faces now. We have more people. We're trying to embed people into the projects so that we can say, that's great, but we have a standard naming convention. or your data integration is great, but it doesn't meet the global template. So we need you to pivot a little bit, and just trying to work together. Collaboration is just huge. Communication, everything that everybody said all day long. Communication, collaboration, work together. Grace and dignity. Margaret Ann's statement, grace and dignity. I was just like, yes, that. So one of the things that we at Corning, every time we're having a big meeting, the phrase that comes out is assume good intent. You know, it's so hard, it's so easy to get into your role. We've all got fire in the belly. We've got this desire to do the best we can. And we know this is our route and that's the shortest point. Let's go. And then you have to go around the room and somebody's like, you can't do that. And you're like, I assume good intent. We're all here for the same purpose. We're all here to make things better. Take a deep breath, grace and dignity. Let's talk some more. So, yeah.
Do we have other questions in the room?
Could you help us a little bit understand about L&D, how at Corning you guys implemented for IBP, especially the learning and development and of the people?
I wish I could. So because I wasn't in on any of the implementation projects, I don't know how my power users were trained. I do know there were some gaps, as I mentioned. But yeah, Corning does have, like Purdue, we leverage a central learning and development platform. You can go in and SuccessFactors, pick up your classes. We are using, some of us, a few on my team are using the Learning Hub. So we do use that. As far as the structure for training the IBP end users, it's been a train the trainer. So I know the words are the business is responsible to train their end users. And that's the phrase I have to spout back every time because I can't train them on how to do their job. So this means the power users for IBP are considered the trainers. They get their training from the implementation project meetings that they have. And so that falls to whoever's doing the implementation, which has been third party so far. So yeah, so it's a little piecemeal. There are gaps. There are times with the product when, as was said this morning, you know, the user's going over here and around and down, because that's the way they always did it in PeopleSoft or some other tool. And I'm like, no, you don't need that. You can just click here. One click, you're there. Wow. So yeah, share that with your friends, you know. So yeah, there's no, that I know of, structured learning. We do have a center of excellence that's spinning up, Center of Excellence power users for IBP. And their goal is to take the official training and see how it fits in Corning and then specialize on these projects to guide the learning and the training. And that's the goal. They asked us for, also discussed this morning, is it a place where they could perform the side-by-side practice tasks. So I'm taking the course. I get to this point, I'm supposed to go do something in the planning area, and I don't have a planning area. Help me out. So they asked our team, we're operations support. What do we know? We know, well, we can stand you up the best practices planning area. So that's what we did. And we loaded some data and we set up some security and we gave them access. And they're like, yeah, but how do I go from this lesson step to log in over there? And I'm missing that. They're missing it. And so to hear that you're going to have something that says, here's your lesson plan, and you click this button and it spins up the environment you need so you can run the exercise. I'm like, yeah, can we get that for IBP? When will that be ready? How do I help? So yeah, learning and development is something that's tough at Corning. A lot of us learn on the job. I've had 0 in classroom training for IBP. I bought some books. I Google and YouTube a lot. SAP for me, I got on that site. Now I'm getting pretty good with that. But yeah, I read notes. I dig around till I find the answer. I ask for help. Now that I have help, it's great. Yeah.
Any other questions here in the room? Should we open it? We have maybe time for one question online. Do we have a question?
Yeah. Since you are successful running SAP IBP for your needs, and you do it with the help of Preferred Success, can you tell us if in your experience, a customer new to IBP could do it themselves without Preferred Success?
We started without Preferred Success. It depends on how big your IT team is, how well they're going to stay around, how much they know to begin with. We didn't start leveling up until Preferred Success took off some of the workload that one person can't do. You know, keeping the system up and running and hitting your day-to-day and onboarding new users, constant turnover with our users. I don't know why. There's a lot of change with user accounts. 30% of my tickets are, we need a new user account, lock that user out, they're moving to a new role. So, yeah, so it can be done. It just depends on your team. Have you hired, do you have the resources with IBP experience? So this year, for the first time this spring, I now have 2 IBP specialists. That's what they do. They have fully trained, they're certified, they know how to configure. I can do some basic configuration, but I would not hire myself out to configure IBP. I can keep it up and running. I know the right people at Corning to get over the hump of a problem. I used to write assembler in C and Fortran. You know, it's been a couple of years, but I'm a technical person. But even with 5 years of playing around in IBP to figure out this one problem, it's hit or miss. There are areas when I can do pretty much what I want with security, but I'm not gonna spin up a planning area all by myself and tell you, yeah, it's ready to go. Do business. Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Any other questions?
So Daphne, you mentioned that you've come from a solution which your teams like customize the heck out of it. So now moving to a cloud solution where probably I'm hoping most of your processes have been simplified. They don't have to go around, but straight to it. But can you talk about how your teams have worked on bringing whoever it is needed into a cloud mindset?
So the only thing I know about bringing them into the cloud incident was their mindset was when I started the incidents of, I can't work with this. It's always down. And it took me going and sitting with their best SME at their desk for a day in the corner with my laptop doing my job and waiting to see when it went down. And she would say, I got to go to a meeting. I'll be right back. And she'd close the laptop and she'd walk down the hall. And I'd be like, well, I don't want to impose on the meeting, so I'll sit here. And she'd come back and be like, you did it again. You weren't there. And it took about 3 meetings before I went, are you saving your stuff before you close that? She's like, no, Excel doesn't need me to save. I'm like, yeah, but IBP does. And it was just like, my hair was on fire. So I'm like, okay, we need to talk. And yeah, it took that. And it only took half a day, thank God. But yeah, and then we immediately regrouped and we called all of the trainers in and we started saying, well, how do you guys envision how the high level works? Because they're awesome with Excel. And learning IBP wasn't hard as long as they were connected. When they were locked in their conference room on the project for 8 hours a day, everything worked fine. It was the real world when they went back to their desk and started running down the hall with their laptops and you're going, let's talk. So yeah, it's something so basic that really just caused churn that first month until we got the word out and we got everybody trained. And then we moved on and now we just giggle about it because it seems so obvious, but it wasn't at the beginning. So yeah.
I can relate to that. And I also close down my computer and I walk into a meeting.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So if there are no more questions in the room, we will conclude the meeting. Daphne, thank you so much.
Thank you.
preferred success sessions for today. For our in-room audience, we have the info fair and happy hour that will follow. So feel free, it is on the first floor, elevators back down to the first floor. And thank you for attending. And if you have any questions, I have a question for you. If you have any questions, if you want to be put in touch with any expert at SAP, any very specific product questions, integrations, anything, please reach out to me. I'll stick around and we'll take that offline. Thank you all.
Thank you.